Good evening and welcome to NTD News. I'm Evelyn Lee. Here are today's top stories. Schools across the nation are sending out warnings and canceling classes today. It's all because threats about school shootings are going viral on TikTok. Democrats failed to include their immigration reform plan in the Build Back Better spending bill. The Senate parliamentarian rejects the plan, which would have given amnesty to millions of illegal immigrants. Christmas is almost here, and many look forward to holiday family gatherings. But the White House has a grim warning for unvaccinated Americans. Law enforcement officials in Arizona seized a record-setting 1.7 million fentanyl pills. The officials said the pills were linked to a Mexican drug cartel and warned that taking fake prescription pills could be fatal. In California, police are tracking down a suspect who has broken into 60 businesses this year. The governor announced plans to crack down on crime. Christmas is on its way, and many plan to gather for the holidays. But the White House is sending unvaccinated Americans a grim warning about this winter, even stressing that they should expect disease and death. NTD's Miguel Moreno reports.
The nation's COVID-19 response team expects the Omicron variant to proliferate this winter. Coordinator Jeff Zients sends unvaccinated Americans a severe warning.
For the unvaccinated, you're looking at a winter of severe illness and death. For yourselves, your families, and the hospitals you may soon overwhelm.
In the name of preventing this from happening, the White House urges Americans to get vaccinated and to get boosted when they should. Epidemiologist Dr. Peter McCullough tells me that in his view, the White House shouldn't inject such a dark message into the public because most Americans, including seniors, are vaccinated. But he advises Americans to watch for symptoms.
Americans need to pay attention to symptoms. We know the virus is not spread unless somebody has active symptoms, including fever, nasal congestion, headache, cough, loss of taste and smell. If symptoms are present, then individuals should avoid gathering and congregate settings. They should self-quarantine if they're still susceptible and get a test. If there's no symptoms, there really is no worry.
The White House is stressing the danger of the Omicron variant. What we know about the variant is incomplete. Dr. Anthony Fauci confirmed that its ability to spread is strong, so his team expects it to dominate over the Delta strain in a few weeks. But does Omicron make you sicker than Delta?
Really, it's still up in the air right now because there are a lot of confounding issues as to whether or not it is less severe. Certainly, looking at what we see, it does not look like it is more severe, but we have to withhold judgment.
At this time, COVID cases are surging. To keep students in school, the CDC now supports a test-to-stay practice. This practice lets unvaccinated students exposed to an infected person stay in school if they test negative. Previously, they had to quarantine, unlike vaccinated students who could stay in class as long as they had no symptoms. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
And a growing number of companies and hospital systems are rolling back their vaccine mandates. That's amid concerns over staffing shortages and court challenges to the mandates. Here's NTD's Ellison Lee.
Earlier this week, Amtrak became the latest corporation to rescind its vaccine requirement for workers. About 500 out of more than 17,000 Amtrak workers remain unvaccinated. Amtrak CEO William Flynn suggested in a memo sent to staff that the sudden loss of that many workers would have caused service disruptions. The company's original mandate would have required its workers to get fully vaxxed by January 4th or go on unpaid leave. Earlier this month, Florida's Advent Health, which employs some 83,000 workers, ended its vaccine requirement. The hospital system cited recent court orders blocking federal vaccine mandates. Tenet Healthcare, HCA Healthcare, and Cleveland Clinic recently announced they are pulling back as well. They cited concerns over labor shortages. The three healthcare companies, along with Advent Health, operate a combined 300 hospitals and have more than 500,000 workers. Earlier this week, the Los Angeles Unified School Board voted to postpone its student vaccine mandate from January 2022 until the fall of 2022. Reports say tens of thousands of students would not comply, meaning they would not be able to attend in-person classes. And Huntington Ingalls Industries, the largest naval shipbuilder in the U.S., announced it won't enforce the Biden administration's federal contractor mandate. The company has some 44,000 workers. A federal court later blocked that same mandate. Allison Lee, NTD News.
This week, federal officials and police in Scottsdale, Arizona announced a record drug bust in which they seized about 1.77 million fentanyl pills. The illegal drugs were discovered during a covert operation performed by Scottsdale detectives and federal officers. NTD's Jason Perry has that story.
This is not a recreational drug. This is death.
Law enforcement officials in Scottsdale, Arizona, seized nearly 1.7 million fentanyl pills, which is about 360 pounds of the drug. There were also about 20 pounds of powdered fentanyl and 1 pound of methamphetamine. The seizure set a record for the DEA in Arizona.
When you look at the amount of 9 to 10 kilograms of fentanyl powder that was seized, you're talking about more than 4 million more pills that could have been made. And I want to put that in context. We're talking about more than 6 million fentanyl pills. That is enough to kill more than half the population of the state of Arizona.
Scottsdale detectives and DEA agents had uncovered a courier who led them to a number of different residences and storage lockers in the Phoenix metropolitan area where they were able to seize the drugs. Officials said Phoenix is historically known as a repackaging and distribution area. Most of the drugs were destined for other parts of the country.
We know that the Mexican cartels have taken advantage of our porous border and are pouring record amounts of drugs into our country. I know as a prosecutor, and I was a gang prosecutor for years, that when we see the price of drugs like fentanyl and the price of drugs like methamphetamine falling in our communities, that's a result of demand.
In September, the DEA issued its first public safety alert in 6 years to warn Americans about the alarming increase in the availability and the danger of fake prescription pills in the U.S.
Talk to your children, your friends, your neighbors, your loved ones about the dangers of these deadly pills. Like the chief said, we are dealing death right here. One pill can kill, one pill, one time.
This year alone, the DEA has seized enough fentanyl to provide a lethal dose to every American. Jason Perry, NTD News.
Illegal immigrants currently in the U.S. won't get a pathway to citizenship with the Build Back Better bill. The Senate parliamentarian has struck another blow to Democrats' immigration plans, including in the spending bill. NTD's Melina Weisskopf brings us more from Capitol Hill.
The House-passed version of the Build Back Better bill includes a piece of immigration reform. That is, it would grant work permits to illegal immigrants and protect them from deportation. Now, when this bill made it over to the Senate side, the Senate Rules Advisor said that this needs to be stripped from the bill because immigration reform is more of a policy issue and not a budget matter. Now, this is the third time that the Senate Rules Advisor has rejected Democrats' immigration reform proposal in this budget bill. The Senate Rules Advisor, Elizabeth McDonough, also known as the Senate parliamentarian, is the chamber's nonpartisan referee. She has the power to approve or disapprove of provisions during the reconciliation process. The first two immigration plans Democrats proposed would have given amnesty to millions of illegal immigrants who entered the U.S. illegally. Now, their third immigration plan, known as Plan C, is already significantly weaker. It would impact 6 to 7 million illegal immigrants. They would get 5-year work and travel permits, essentially a form of temporary amnesty. Now that this plan has failed to pass, 6 Democratic senators, including Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, released a joint statement in response. They said, "We strongly disagree with the parliamentarians' interpretation of our immigration proposal, and we will pursue every means to achieve a path to citizenship in the Build Back Better Act." Now, lead Senate Democrats could ignore the Senate Rules Advisor's advice here and move ahead with their immigration reform in this budget bill, but it's pretty unheard of here on Capitol Hill to handle it this way. So we'll just have to see whenever they come back from the holidays and take up debate on this Build Back Better bill again, whether they choose to move forward and come up with a Plan D for immigration. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
Voting has become a highly partisan issue. Some Democrats want to make voting easier through measures like mail-in voting and eliminating voter ID, while some Republicans say there needs to be more regulation. New York's governor agrees with the former group. NTD's Arian Pastar has more on the governor's latest push for easy access to voting.
Governor Kathy Hochul says she wants everyone in the state of New York to be able to vote by mail. She says people should automatically receive a ballot, no questions asked. According to her, that's to make it easier for people to exercise the most basic right in a democracy. Voting in New York is already pretty easy. For example, you don't need to show an ID to vote. Some say that asking for voter ID oppresses black voters. They argue that a lot of black people don't have an ID. Now here in New York City, everyone has to show an ID and a vaccination card if they want to dine in at a restaurant. So let's see what people think about this. If you want to dine indoors, you need a vaccine card and an ID. What do you think about that?
I think it's good.
So in New York State, you don't need an ID to vote. What do you think about that?
That's retarded.
You need to show a vaccination card and an ID to dine indoors. What do you think about that?
I mean, it is what it is.
You don't need an ID if you want to vote here in New York State. What do you think about that?
Politics.
They say that a lot of black people don't have an identification. Do you think that's true?
I don't think so. All my black friends have identifications.
Most black people you know, do they have ID?
Everybody I know have ID.
Do you think they should require IDs for people who want to vote?
Well, definitely, so they know who they are.
Of course, voting is a constitutional right, and generally everyone should be able to vote. Going to a restaurant, as you may know, is not a constitutional right. Arian Pastar, NTD News, New York.
California officials announced new efforts to tackle crime across the state. Police are looking for an example of that crime in Southern California, a suspect responsible for breaking into 60 businesses this year. Here's NTD's Eileen Ang with more.
On Friday, California Governor Gavin Newsom and Attorney General Rob Bonta proposed new state efforts and investments to fight crime that has been plaguing the state.
We are putting out over $250 million in enforcement grants, competitive enforcement grants, to help local law enforcement advance their efforts to investigate and to arrest and help us aid and advance the prosecution of people that are involved in organized retail theft.
The new resources and funding announced today, they're a game changer. The Real Public Safety Plan provides the DOJ with additional funding to bolster our existing efforts, taking down the perpetrators at the top of these crime rings and shutting down the pipeline of stolen merchandise, freezing out the illicit market and ensuring serious criminals face serious consequences.
In an exclusive interview with Fox News, former Governor Jerry Brown said there aren't enough consequences for criminals.
You've heard about the redistribution of wealth. We need a redistribution of incarceration. Steal a car or something, you're going to spend some time. You don't have to spend 10 years. Put them in for a month. If they do it again, put them in for 3 months.
An example is the 2 o'clock rock burglary in Los Angeles. The Los Angeles Police Department is looking for the man responsible for breaking into 60 businesses in the San Fernando Valley this year. He's referred to as the 2 o'clock rock burglar because he strikes between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. According to the police, the suspect first canvasses a location, then stages rocks in front of the business. He then throws a rock through the front glass door and steals cash from the register. The suspect is described to be an African-American male who sometimes wears glasses. He's 5 feet 10 inches and weighs about 150 to 180 pounds. Generally, he wears a dark hooded sweatshirt, blue jeans, and black shoes. He has been seen riding a bicycle or driving an early 2000s four-door dark-colored Nissan Maxima or Sentra. The police ask anyone with more information to contact them. Eileen Ang, NTD News, California.
Former Minnesota police officer Kim Potter took the stand today in her own defense. She became emotional as she recalled the events of the day when she said she mistook her gun for a taser. NTD's Jason Perry has the story.
Kim Potter testified that during her 26-year career as a Minnesota police officer, she never once received any complaint of abusing her power, and she never once received a complaint from the public. Potter's attorney began the questioning.
And this was your career?
Yes.
And when did you quit?
A day or two after the incident.
And why did you quit?
There was so much bad things happening. I didn't want my coworkers, and I didn't want anything bad to happen to the city.
Defense attorney Earl Gray walked her through the moments of the incident.
I remember yelling, "Taser, taser, taser," and nothing happened. And then he told me I shot him. They had an ambulance for me, and I don't know why. And then I was at the station. I don't remember a lot of things afterwards.
Earlier in the day, the defense brought a psychologist who explained how that could happen to someone who survived a traumatic event.
You know, if anybody here has ever been involved in a very frightening experience and lived to tell about it, there may be some aspects of it and you look back and you say, you know, I don't know how I got out of that car. Next thing I knew, I was on the side of the road and I was okay. And that's because it's not a matter of not retrieving the information. Remember, the information didn't get in the first place. You were focused on something else.
The prosecution walked through that same incident with Potter, and the court took a break after Potter broke down in tears, but they later resumed the questioning. On Monday, the judge will give the jurors the instructions of law they need to apply in rendering their verdict. And the attorneys will give their closing arguments. Potter could face just over 7 years for first-degree manslaughter and 4 years for second-degree manslaughter. Jason Perry, NTD News, New York.
And here's the latest from the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. Today, Maxwell refused to take the stand when the judge asked her to testify. She says the government has not proven its case beyond a reasonable doubt, so there is no reason for her to testify. Harvard University announced yesterday they're extending their test-optional admissions policy for another 4 years. So students applying for the university won't be required to take the SAT or ACT standardized tests. NTD's Chen Yun spoke with a professor on what this could mean.
Standardized testing has always played a big role for students applying for college, but that might not be the case anymore. Harvard announced on Thursday that it will extend their test-optional admissions policy through 2026, meaning students can apply for the university without SAT or ACT scores. Harvard said the reason for the extension is due to the inaccessibility of testing sites during the pandemic. Glenn Ricketts is a professor of political science at Raritan Valley Community College. He says Harvard's decision is significant because it will most likely set an example for other schools.
It's obviously going to create big ripples because people can point to probably the premier university in the country. Well, you see there, Harvard doesn't think tests are worth keeping.
Some studies have shown that minorities and students from low-income families can be at a disadvantage when it comes to test prep. A number of other colleges and universities are waiving standardized test requirements to promote inclusiveness and diversity. However, Ricketts says the move could cause a number of issues. He says standardized testing helps in part to determine a student's academic ability and whether they can keep up with a rigorous curriculum.
Well, a lot of students were being recruited in the name of diversity to the very top tier schools, and they really weren't prepared for it.
And he adds that contributes to high dropout rates. Ricketts says ultimately removing factors such as standardized testing from the admissions process can negatively affect academic standards.
Slowly and surely, we are taking that rigorous component out of education at all levels. It focuses on student feelings, on subjectivism.
Harvard has not yet said if they will resume testing requirements after 2026. Chen Yun, NTD News.
And coming up in the NFL, Urban Meyer's dismissal from the Jacksonville Jaguars continues a baffling trend. Why are so many successful college coaches having trouble making the leap to the pros? See what a former player has to say. And one Chicago man has a special Christmas tree set up you've probably never seen before. He says it's the only one in the world. All that and more here on NTD News. Former Jacksonville Jaguars head coach Urban Meyer was fired yesterday. This continues a surprising trend of unsuccessful coaching leaps from the college ranks to the NFL. NTD's Dave Martin has more.
Urban Meyer was hired just this past January with an overwhelming college resume that included 3 national championships and 7 conference titles. His dismissal yesterday leaves him with an NFL coaching career of just 13 games, 2 wins, 11 losses, and a question mark of what went wrong for yet another successful college football coach. Memo to NFL teams: don't hire college coaches as your head coach. Urban Meyer, Bill O'Brien, Chip Kelly, Greg Schiano, Bobby Petrino, Nick Saban, tweeted former NFL kicker Jay Feely, who was replying to ESPN insider Adam Schefter's list of 12 college to NFL coach hirings since 2000. Just 4 had winning records with the teams that hired them. Jim Harbaugh played in the NFL. Big difference. These college coaches are used to holding dominion over young men that are beholden to them for their future, continued Feely. Chris Long of KSTP TV Sports tweeted, college football and the NFL are very different beasts. Don't forget, Nick Saban failed miserably with the Dolphins. Saban had a forgettable 2-year stop with Miami from 2005 to 2006, going 15-17, before returning to the college ranks at Alabama, where he's won 6 of his record-breaking 7 national championships. Meyer's dismissal leaves just 2 first-time college to NFL coaches. Carolina's Matt Rule and Arizona's Cliff Kingsbury. For NTD News, New York, I'm Dave Martin.
Schools across the U.S. are increasing police presence, with some even canceling classes today. This all because of some viral TikTok posts warning of school shootings. NTD's Iris Tao talks to parents and security experts.
School districts across the U.S. are issuing warnings, increasing security, and canceling classes on Friday as anonymous threats about school shootings go viral on TikTok. One school district in Alabama, for example, announced that Friday's classes will be moved entirely online. It quoted a widely circulated post on TikTok that refers to a threat on December 17th for every school in the USA, even elementary. Although many schools like this one right here in Midtown Manhattan did not cancel classes today, parents who send their kids to school today say they are concerned.
I heard of the challenges and the kids are going crazy with challenges, but this one was more of a, like national, like really threatening school safety. And it was a big shock to me.
Lee Carmona, a father of 4, got the school email just this morning when dropping off his kids. He says the school let the parents decide whether to send their kids to school today. The children's grandmother says she fears what she sees on the news would actually happen in school.
I always pray, but I'm still fearful because you see it in the news.
Law enforcement agencies say they have looked into the threat and don't think it's credible. But even the Department of Homeland Security is recommending that communities stay alert. So should schools shut down because of a TikTok post?
It's a double-edged sword.
School security expert Dr. Amy Klinger says a quick response might help ensure the kids' safety. However,
if we have a low-level threat and we close, then we have essentially guaranteed we're going to get more threats because the person making the threat got what they wanted, which was anxiety, fear, disruption, chaos.
Meanwhile, another security expert is warning how powerful social media can be in spreading such threats.
These social media threats get a life of their own. They go viral within minutes.
Recent threats follow a deadly school shooting in Michigan and numerous copycat threats in other schools.
Parents and educators need to talk with their children because our young people need to understand that once you press send, you can't put the threat back into the smartphone.
But it may not be just about school safety. TikTok, which reportedly has connections to China, has raised concerns about national security. China expert Gordon Chang tweeted Friday, warning that the communist regime is using the popular platform to promote threats in the U.S.
There are some national security implications when you can have a threat go viral across the United States and the world and impact the decisions and actions of school officials and others in a matter of minutes or hours within a day.
Trump adds that the best line of defense is a well-trained, highly alert staff and student body who react quickly but also know not to spread misinformation from unreliable sources. Iris Tao, NTD News.
And this year's Miss World competition was canceled just before the finale. This amid a new pandemic outbreak among beauty queens. 23 of the 97 contestants reportedly tested positive, along with 15 staff members. The prestigious beauty pageant was scheduled to take place in Puerto Rico on Thursday. In a statement released just hours before the finale, organizers said they will reschedule the competition. This may take place within the next 90 days. The decision was made citing the health and safety interests of contestants, staff, crew, and the general public. CEO of the Miss World organization, Julia Morley, says they are looking forward to the return of the contestants to compete for the crown. And Christmas trees come in different shapes and sizes. In a quest to be unique, one Chicago man says he may have a one-of-a-kind Christmas tree setup. His goes through the roof and spins while people watch from outside.
A Chicago resident set up a rotating Christmas tree that appears to be breaking through his two-story house roof. The owner, Dan DePape, believes that it is the only one in the world.
This is my through-the-roof tree that also rotates. When I Googled a through-the-roof rotating tree, I couldn't find one. I could find a through-the-roof tree, it's unique, but they're throughout the country. Rotating trees, they're everywhere, but I could not find one that was combined. So I'm going to say I'm the first most authority on rotating through-the-roof tree. When you look at it outside, it appears to be 20 feet, I'd say, from top to bottom. It appears to be 20 feet. And you're not going to get any more out of me on that. It's Christmas magic to get it on the part on the roof.
DePape is a real estate agent, so he equips his Christmas tree with high-tech gadgets to enable remote operation.
They're Wi-Fi controlled, and then you just hook it into your phone, and then I could be out showing properties, and I can turn the tree on when it gets dark out. And then to make sure that everything goes well, there's another app where it has images of all the floors. I have floor 1, floor 2. I also have a camera on the roof.
He started to build Christmas trees when he was young and has spent years tinkering about a unique Christmas tree.
As a real estate agent with Dreamtown, I've had the opportunity to see many houses. And a while back, while I was in Lincolnwood, they have one there, and it's a through-the-roof tree. And it gave me the idea, but the rotation part I came up with about 3-4 years ago. And it was built this year, though.
To maintain the Christmas magic, DePape will keep the secrets of his tree to himself.
And coming up, California updated its rules on workers who come into contact with COVID-19. Vaccination status won't matter for 3 months. And a charity in California's Bay Area continues a 32-year-old tradition of handing out Christmas gifts. The pandemic brought challenges, but they're set to give a milestone number of gifts this year. That and more here on NTD News.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell. Cancel culture has not only affected myself and MyPillow, but millions of you out there. Before all this started, I had already written in my memoir, I dedicate this book to anyone that's looking for hope. Well, right now, we're all looking for hope. I believe that my story is going to bring inspiration and hope to everyone. By the time you're done reading my book, you will believe that with God, all things are possible. To thank you all for your support, I'm offering some of my best prices ever on MyPillow products, including this exclusive bundle. You get my book and these 5 MyPillows. They all have beautiful scenes and verses from the Bible, such as Isaiah 41:10. Do not fear, for I am with you. This 6-pack bundle is regularly $219. Now it's just $99.98 and free shipping with your promo code. Go to mypillow.com and use the promo code on your screen or call the 1-800 number below. Thank you and God bless.
Oh, hey, doesn't it feel like there's communists everywhere? In fact, the Chinese Communist Party has been subverting America from every angle. So whether it's compromising our politicians, controlling Hollywood, manipulating Wall Street, or infiltrating our schools, they have stopped at nothing to take down America. And I believe that in order for us to not become like China, we need citizens who know the truth. So go on over to getepic.com, stay informed with a subscription to the Epic Times, and you will get instant access to this infographic.
California has updated its rules for workers who come in contact with people infected with COVID-19. Both vaccinated and unvaccinated individuals will be treated the same.
California state regulators extended workplace restrictions on Thursday. The regulations will not take into account if an individual is vaccinated against the CCP virus, also known as COVID-19. The rules will take effect on January 14th. Anyone who comes into contact with someone infected with the CCP virus will be prohibited from going to the workplace. Individuals must quarantine for 14 days. The rules will be in effect for 3 months. The change in rules comes one day after California required all individuals, regardless of vaccine status, to wear masks indoors. State CCP virus data showed a spike in cases while deaths have consistently trended downwards. The Associated Press reported on December 16th that Saskia Kim, member of the state's Nursing Education and Workforce Advisory Committee, said vaccinated people can transmit the virus, and early reports show that to be especially true with Omicron.
This year, over 10,000 fires burnt more than 4 million acres in California. After the devastating wildfires this year, some students just graduated from Firefighting Academy. They told NTD's David Lamb what they want to give back on the front lines.
On Friday, 25 cadets graduated from the first ever Fire Academy at Mission College in Santa Clara. They are part of the Firefighter 1 Academy.
The most exciting part was definitely the live burn day. We were able to put all of our skills that we learned to work and go into a real fire.
She wanted to be a firefighter because she says they are able to make an impact on the front lines.
I've always been a guy who loves to give back and help my community, so it's something that is special to me, and I want to always be able to give back. And I pass that down to my son and my wife. And
students went through firefighting preparation in their 16-week program. The faculty are from local fire agencies.
But then I began to realize that for me, it was not a job, it was a call.
We started with, I believe, 27. And during the academy, 2 of them actually got hired by a fire department. So they left to go work for a fire department, and we're at about 25 right now.
Congratulations to the first class. Super excited.
There were roughly 100 guests that attended. Local officials, other fire agencies, as well as law enforcement were present. Now, during the ceremony, one of the speakers said that these graduates are future lifesavers because they're going into a field that's integral to the community of California, which is prone to many wildfires. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
A group of San Francisco residents is suing the city's Parks and Recreation Department for keeping a number of the city's roads closed. The closures were part of the pandemic-related changes, but some residents want the roads to reopen. NTD's Cynthia Kai has the details.
Open, the Great Highway Alliance, and 5 other plaintiffs filed a lawsuit on Thursday against the San Francisco Recreation and Park Department. The lawsuit seeks to reopen San Francisco's Great Highway, John F. Kennedy Drive, and Martin Luther King Drive. All 3 streets are closed as part of a pandemic-related initiative known as Slow Streets. These are partially closed streets that limit car access but increase pedestrian access.
The answer is that the closures are illegal because the roads here, namely JFK Drive, MLK Drive, the Great Highway, have been partially closed, not fully closed.
He says the city needs to follow strict guidelines to legally close public roads.
The city is allowing pedestrians, bikers, as well as people who are in food trucks, motorized scooters, and surreys to use the roads anytime, while keeping many others off the roads. This violates both state and local law.
NTD reached out to San Francisco's city attorney's office for a comment, but did not hear back by airtime. According to a SF County Transportation Authority November report, the city shut down the highways to improve the local economy, health and safety, livability, and address climate change.
Those people didn't stop using their cars because they shut down the Great Highway. They just started coming through the middle of the Sunset neighborhood.
The Transportation Authority reports between 17,000 to 19,000 cars per day used the Great Highway prior to pandemic lockdowns.
The mindset that by closing roads to cars, suddenly people are going to just stop driving, that's just not the reality here.
On April 4, 2020, San Francisco Public Works closed the Great Upper Highway for scheduled sand removal maintenance. However, District 4 Supervisor Gordon Marr requested the roadway remain closed to create an opportunity for physically distant exercise during the pandemic.
The people who typically use the Great Highway, for example, which is largely a commuter route, they're getting to jobs, they're getting to schools, they're getting to doctor's appointments. They're not going to stop driving because their preferred route of access has been blocked, has been gated off. They're just going to be in their cars longer.
The lawsuit was filed in the California Superior Court, County of San Francisco. SF Recreation and Park Department has 30 days to respond to the court summons. Cynthia Kai, NTD News, California.
And coming up, the president of Purdue University is asking those who suppress freedom on campus to, quote, continue their education elsewhere. That's after a student was allegedly harassed after he spoke out on Chinese politics. And pipeline operator Nord Stream 2 AG says it's continuing with preparations to launch the controversial project, even though they haven't gotten approval from German energy regulators. Stay tuned for more on NTD News. A Chinese student from Purdue University was allegedly harassed and threatened by other Chinese students after he spoke out on Chinese politics. Now, the president of the university is asking those who suppress freedom on campus to, quote, continue their education elsewhere. NTD's Tiffany Meyer has the story.
The president of Purdue University is asking those who suppress freedom on campus to continue their education elsewhere. That's responding to a case where a Chinese student was allegedly harassed and threatened by other students from China for speaking out on Chinese politics. In November, news outlet ProPublica reported that Purdue student Zhi Haokong made a post memorizing the pro-democracy students that were killed in the Tiananmen Square massacre in 1989. After his Chinese schoolmates found out about the post, they followed Kong around campus, accused him of being a CIA agent, and threatened to report him to the Chinese embassy. Then officers from China's spy agency visited Kong's parents in China, telling them to warn their son about speaking out. Purdue University President Mitch Daniels wrote in an email to students and faculties that he wasn't aware of the harassment until it made it into national news. He said freedom of expression is central to the university's values, and he condemned any students trying to limit that freedom. He wrote that those seeking to deny those rights to others, let alone to collude with foreign governments in repressing, will need to pursue their education elsewhere. To comply with Beijing's requirements, Microsoft's search engine Bing is suspending its auto-suggestion function in China. On Friday, Bing posted on its Chinese website, saying that Chinese laws require to suspend the search auto-suggestion feature in mainland China for 30 days, though the notice did not say what those laws are and how they affected Bing's autofill feature. Microsoft's Bing is the last major foreign search engine still operating in China. The service interruption is Microsoft's latest worry as Beijing clamps down on the internet sector. Earlier this year, internet users noticed that Bing had removed the iconic Tank Man image from search results. It happened around the anniversary of the 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre. And in October, Microsoft said it would shut down social functions on the Chinese version of its LinkedIn. They said it was because of a significantly more challenging operating environment and greater compliance requirements in the country. According to analytics firm StatCounter, Bing is the third most popular search engine in China. 2 U.S. Democratic lawmakers are calling on TV station NBC to use its coverage of the Beijing Olympics to raise awareness on human rights. The U.S. broadcaster paid historic sums for the rights to air the games, but politicians and experts have argued that the coverage may risk purveying Chinese propaganda. Senator Jeff Merkley and Congressman James McGovern wrote a letter to NBC Universal CEO Jeff Shell on Thursday. They are asking the network to provide background coverage on the Chinese regime's human rights abuses in Xinjiang and its suppression of democracy in Hong Kong. They also asked the station to avoid broadcasting Chinese state-sponsored footage of happy minorities. Beijing usually uses such footage to cover up for their crimes in the region. The two lawmakers are respectively the chair and co-chair of the Congressional Executive Commission on China. It's a bipartisan committee that monitors human rights in the country. NBC also aired the 2008 Beijing Olympics. China director at Human Rights Watch, Sophie Richardson, pointed out the potential moral dilemma. She told Variety that the broadcasting has huge public relations value for the Chinese regime. That's because it gets to present to the world exactly the image it wanted at that time. And not all of that was within NBC's control. She said it's important for foreign sponsors and broadcasters of the games to realize their role in promoting the Chinese regime's narrative.
The company in charge of planning and operating the Nord Stream 2 pipeline says it's continuing with preparations to launch the project. That's despite Germany's energy regulators saying just yesterday that a decision to approve the project won't happen for at least another 7 months. Here are the details.
Pipeline operator Nord Stream 2 AG said Friday that it had started filling its second pipe with natural gas. Russia completed construction of the dual pipeline back in September, and the first pipe was filled with gas in October. The pipeline will run from Russia to Europe across the Baltic Sea. It'll establish a direct link between Gazprom, Russia's state-run gas company, and European consumers. However, the pipeline is yet to obtain regulatory approval from Germany and the European Union. That's amid political tensions over a buildup of Russian troops on the Ukraine border. Germany's energy regulator said on Thursday full certification of the project would not come in the first half of 2022. Russia has called the delay political, a criticism that Germany dismisses. A Russian energy official said on Friday that gas may start flowing via Nord Stream 2 to Germany as soon as next month. Berlin denied that claim. The Nord Stream 2 pipes, both 760 miles long, have a combined annual capacity of 1.9 trillion cubic feet. That's the same as the existing Nord Stream pipeline. The launch of the project would double Russia's pipeline capacity for gas exports in the Baltic. It's also designed to bypass Ukraine, Moscow's political foe. Some experts and politicians have accused Russia of deliberately undersupplying Europe in order to get approval for Nord Stream 2, contributing to spikes in gas prices across the continent. Gazprom has said it's meeting its contractual obligations to its European customers. The United States, as well as some European countries, including Ukraine and Poland, have protested against the pipeline, which would deprive Ukraine of transit fees as well as increase Moscow's leverage over Europe. Russia has said the project is purely commercial.
And Russia is promising retaliation against Germany. It's been over 2 years since Germany expelled 2 Russian ambassadors over the murder of a former Chechen militant. Now the pressure heightens for the new German government to toughen its stance towards Moscow. NTD's David English has more.
A German court this week found that Russia ordered the murder of a former Chechen militant in a Berlin park in 2019. It sentenced a Russian man whom it identified as an agent of Russia's FSB security service to life imprisonment.
What happened here was clearly illegal. Another state can't just send a contract killer to eliminate regime critics on German soil.
Judge Olaf Arnoldi said Russia had issued Vadim Krasiko with false papers with which to travel for the killing. Georgian citizen Tornak Kangashvili was killed with 3 shots in broad daylight in central Berlin's Tiergarten Park. The judge said the killing was in retaliation for his role fighting alongside Chechen separatists against Moscow in the 2000s. Judge Arnoldi said some media suggested that Russia or even Vladimir Putin are on trial here. That's misleading. But our task does involve considering the circumstances of the crime. Russian President Vladimir Putin is on record describing Kangashvili as a bloody terrorist.
For the relatives, this murder also meant that they felt unsafe. They were looking for protection here in Germany, and the killing was supposed to be a signal from Russia that people looking for safety, especially Chechens, should not feel safe in Germany.
The suspect maintains he is not Krasikov, but Vadim Sokolov, a construction engineer from St. Petersburg. The case has been compared to the 2018 poisoning of Sergei Skripal in Salisbury. In response to the ruling, Germany's new foreign minister said she summoned Russia's ambassador and expelled 2 members of its embassy staff.
This murder, carried out on state orders, as was ruled by the court today, is a serious violation of German law and of German sovereignty.
The case could heighten pressure on the new German government to toughen its stance towards Moscow. Russia's foreign ministry rejected the ruling and said it would retaliate. But a Kremlin spokesman said it should not affect ties between Putin and Germany's new Chancellor Olaf Scholz. David English, NTD News.
And that's not the only issue facing the new German government. 380 doctors wrote an open letter questioning the benefit of giving COVID-19 vaccines to children. Here's more.
The letter says healthy children and adolescents must be advised against vaccination because the risks of serious side effects and late effects far exceeds the potential benefits. The doctors write that the risk of dying from COVID is about 10,000 times higher for people over 80 than for children under 10. But serious adverse effects occur just as frequently in children as in adults. The letter asks the government to stop what they call one-sided vaccination information that plays down the possible harm. Germany has begun vaccinating children aged between 5 and 12 this week, but Germany's Vaccination Advisory Commission recommends the Pfizer vaccine only for those in that age group with pre-existing conditions.
And coming up, a bookstore owner in Paris is spreading joy with teddy bears, and he's even inspired others around the world to do the same. And thrilling footage of a wingsuit pilot flying past the pyramids of Giza. We'll take a closer look after the break on NTD News.
You worked hard for your money. You invest in stability for your retirement and your family's future, to build and leave them with something greater. The next unprecedented financial crisis, political misstep, or unstable government can depreciate it all away. It was called the gold standard for a reason, the financial preservation of tomorrow. Diversify your assets against inflation, market volatility, and the unknown with real money. Hedge your wealth with the purest form of money, physical gold and silver. Because any currency printed on paper can be manipulated. What's backing up your IRA? Do what you need to do right now to be prepared with the Reagan Gold Group. Visit now, rggusakit.com, or call us at 866-912-1384. Receive up to $2,500 in free silver coins and a free safe with your new precious metals IRA. Call now.
Since 1990, the Family Giving Tree has provided gifts for 1 million San Francisco Bay Area children, families, and seniors from low-income households. Today, it celebrates its 2 millionth gift delivered.
This year, the Family Giving Tree celebrates its 2 millionth gift delivered. The program provides gifts to residents around the Bay Area.
This year, we're hoping to deliver 40,000 gifts to about 200 agencies around the Bay Area. We give gifts to children as young as infants up to the age of 18, and then young adults, and seniors. So we're looking for toys and diapers, formula, diaper bags, crock pots, pots and pan sets, board games, anything, a list of over 200 gifts that a person can request.
Family Giving Tree was started by Jennifer Cullenbine as a college master's project. Her ideas were originally rejected, but she found a group of people to work with her and make the Christmas magic come true.
I learned from the last 32 years was that people will give if you ask them, but they need a simple way to help you. And so what I have figured out is how to make it simple for lots of people to help lots of kids. My little skeleton crew, we're here 11 and a half hours a day for 21 days straight to get this to happen, and it is a labor of love.
Most gifts in the warehouse are brought in from community members who signed up to shop for items to donate to the Family Giving Tree.
Today's events are very special to us. We work all year round to work on two main drives. We do a back-to-school drive in the summer, and we do a holiday wish drive in the winter.
Wynn added that they are working 21 days with their 18 mighty staffs to send gifts to Bay Area children, families, and seniors. Before the pandemic, the Family Giving Tree sent 80,000 gifts annually, but now it has decreased to 40,000 gifts since the local economy can't support this organization like normal years.
And in Paris, teddy bears are bringing smiles and joy all around. Some of them have adorned local bars and shops for years. The Bears manager invited NTD's correspondent David Vives for a fluffy adventure through the French capital streets.
Merry Christmas! Like many people preparing for Christmas, teddy bears are ready to do their part. They go out every day in the Paris street with their human friend, Philippe. Philippe owns a bookstore in the 13th district of Paris, where it all began 3 years ago. Every day, he loads his Bearmobile with his fluffy friends.
Hello, let's go for a new adventure.
He leaves bears at different places or takes them back. Sometimes the bear becomes part of the decor as a permanent resident, like in this bar.
Bears always bring joy with them, and we need that in these complicated times. There are so many of them in the district, it seems we are being colonized.
It takes just a few minutes to install a dozen bears on the terrace. According to this restaurant owner, since the bears joined his staff, there are brighter smiles and more conversation in the place.
It's been really wonderful to have these bears around because we see people being able to really connect. That's been amazing.
Yeah. It's like the best Christmas decorations ever.
Absolutely.
Everybody stops.
Absolutely.
Everybody takes photos. Everybody gives love.
Yeah.
Philippe is also giving away or loaning teddy bears to schools, shops and restaurants. Since Philippe began his adventure 3 years ago, word has spread not only in France, but in other countries as well.
People are bringing teddy bears all around the globe, and sometimes we hear good news from them. In Copenhagen, Denmark, a bar launched a call for people to make or buy scarves for teddy bears. Then the scarves went to homeless people. We've been there, and we are currently looking to do the same operation here soon.
He says bears attract so many people that he must pay attention to big crowds. As for this square, only a few minutes after placing some teddy bears, it went from empty to being crowded. Philippe says he's in contact with airlines, train companies and museums to organize events. Among other scheduled activities, Philippe said he's attempting to register a teddy bear to compete in the Olympic Games, along with other athletes from around the world.
A French daredevil flew past the pyramids of Giza closer than any wingsuit pilot before him.
Fred Foujon and other daredevils flew past the pyramids at speeds of up to 155 miles per hour at a minimum elevation of 300 feet. In the past, wingsuit flyers were only allowed to fly above the height of the pyramids and not next to them. The exception was given to Foujon because of his ability to elevate himself again in order to safely deploy a parachute after flying past the pyramids. Foujon, 42, performed the breathtaking feat last month. He has performed many incredible stunts in the past, including jumping from a plane mid-air and flying above Mont Blanc.
And Brazilian surfer Lucas Fink is hoping to enter the Guinness Book of World Records. He surfed a monster wave on a skimboard off Nazaré, Portugal. Here's a stunning video. Fink told Reuters that the wave he rode was close to 60 feet high. A skimboard is smaller than a surfboard. It's about 50 inches long and 20 inches wide, and it is no more than an inch thick. It doesn't have fins to help with stability like larger surfboards or a leash that ties a surfer's ankle to the board. Fink, a Rio de Janeiro native, was a youth soccer player before turning to skimboarding. He was crowned world champion in 2019. And Christmas is going to the dogs in the Peruvian capital of Lima, where dozens of pooches spread joy dressed up as holiday icons. The K Noel Christmas Parade contest brought together the best Santa lookalikes of the canine world, or at least some of the cutest. Lima municipality spokeswoman said creativity was of great importance during the contest. The organizers designed the event to remind people to give their pets the attention they need during the busy holiday season. It's a joyful time for humans, but often not for their pets. The best-dressed pooch of the day was Princess, who was dressed as a Christmas tree. Her proud owner, Sandra Martinez, said she had worn a No to Fireworks sign to create awareness for this time of year. And elephants at the Moscow Zoo played cheerfully in the snow on a frosty winter day in the Russian capital. Baby Philemon enjoys playing with a barrel. Zoo workers sometimes cover his toy with different flavors, which the baby elephant really seems to enjoy. Asian elephants tolerate frost quite well and go outside even in low temperatures. And that's all for this week. Have a great weekend, and thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selective videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up. It's free.